Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavallabha Yasodhanandana Raja Janarandana Yasodhanandana Raja Janarandana Tera Vanachari Jamana Tera Vanachari Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha One more time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. One last time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudhirayet Nasta prayasya bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utamas loke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. We're reading from Srimad Bhāgavatam, the cream of the crop of Vedic literature, with translation and purpose by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. And we are on text 9 of the 3rd chapter of this Canto 4. Tasming bhaginyo mama bhartribi svakair Dhrubam gamishyanti suri didrikshava Aham cha tasmim bhavata bhikamaye Sahopanitam paribharhamarhitum Tasmim bhaginyo mama bhartribi svakair Dhruvam gameshyanti suri didrikshava Aham cha tasmim bhavata bhikamaye Sahopanitam paribharhamarhitum Tasmim bhaginyo mama bhartribi svakair Dhruvam gamishyanti suri didrikshava Aham cha tasmim bhavata bhikamaye Sahopanitam paribharhamarhitum Tasmim bhaginyo mama bhartribi svakair Sahopanitam paribharhamarhitum Tasmim bhaginyo mama bhartribi svakair Dhruvam gamishyanti suri didrikshava Aham tasmin bhagavata bhikamaye Sahopanitam paribharhamarhitum. Yeah, but I have to speak about 8:45 and then stop. No problem. I'm going to just read the word by word by myself. Tasmin, in that sacrifice, Bhaginya's sisters, Mama Mai, Bhartribi, with her husband, Svakai, thereon, Truvam, surely, Gamishyanti will go, Surit Dridrikshava, desiring to meet the relatives, Aham, I, Cha, and Tasmin, in that assembly, Bhavata, with you, Lord Shiva, Abhikamaye, I desire, Saha, with, Upanitam, given, Paribharham, ornaments of decoration, Arhitum, to accept. Translation. I think that all my sisters must have gone to this great sacrificial ceremony with their husbands just to see their relatives. I also desire to decorate myself with the ornaments given to me by my father and go there with you to participate in that assembly. Please repeat. I think that all my sisters must have gone to this great sacrificial ceremony with their husbands just to see their relatives. I also desire to decorate myself with the ornaments given to me by my father and go there with you to participate in that assembly. It is a woman's nature to want to decorate herself with ornaments and nice dresses and accompany her husband to social functions, meet friends and relatives, and enjoy life in that way. This propensity is not unusual, for women is the basic principle of material enjoyment. Therefore, in Sanskrit, the word for woman is stri, which means one who expands the field of material enjoyment. In the material world, there is an attraction between woman and men. This is the arrangement of conditional life. A woman attracts a man, and in that way, the scope of material activities involving house, wealth, children, and friendship increases, and thus, instead of decreasing one's material demands, one becomes entangled in material enjoyment. Lord Shiva, however, is different. Therefore, his name is Shiva, means auspicious. He is not at all attracted by material enjoyment, although his wife, Sati, was the daughter of a very, very great leader and was given to him by the request of Brahma. Lord Shiva was reluctant, but Sati, as a woman, the daughter of a king, wanted enjoyment. She wanted to go to her father's house, just as her other sisters might have done, and meet them and enjoy social life. Here, she specifically indicated that she would decorate herself with the ornaments given by her father. She did not say that she would decorate herself with the ornaments given by her husband because her husband was callous about such matters. He did not know how to decorate his wife and take part in social life because he was always in ecstasy with thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to the Vedic system, a daughter is given a sufficient dowry at the time of her marriage, and therefore Sati was also given a dowry by her father, and ornaments were included. It is also the custom that the husband gives some ornaments, but here it is particularly mentioned that her husband, being materially almost nothing, could not do so. Therefore, she wanted to decorate herself with the ornaments given by her father. It was fortunate for Sati that Lord Shiva did not take the ornaments from his wife and spend them for ganja, because those who imitate Lord Shiva in smoking ganja exploit everything from household affairs. They take all their wife's property and spend it on smoking, intoxication, and similar other activities. Okay. Where is my seatbelt? Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Nagate Girim Yatkipa Tamham Bande Shivununditaranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanam Ishwaram. I will request the blessings of everybody present, particularly the ladies who have been maligned here, so I can say something coherent and Krishna conscious. So, first of all, the word Sri it really means to expand, but in the sense also of having children. So it's not that expand, everything that they do is for material enjoyment. We can see, and even Prabhupada mentioned this, that women are more akin and prone to religious activities than men are. So you can see that, today we have equal amount of men and women, but the women are always present in religious activities and functions and all sorts of sacrifices. And yeah, maybe they want to show their new Anoki and Fabindia stuff, but not necessarily so. They're actually pious by nature, and men are a little more heady, and they don't have soft a heart as women do. So it's hard for them to accept things like that there is someone better than them, like the Supreme Person. So this is an advantage that women have. Also, here says a woman attracts a man, and in that way the scope of material activities involving house, wealth, children, etc. Increases or expands. But also, men are attracted to women, and women are attracted to men. It's not like a one-sided thing. This is something going on in the material world. Because if men were attracted to women and women weren't attracted to men, then there will be no union. If one of them was not part of a deal, then it's over. Well, It's just a one-sided thing. So this is a tit for tat. It's not just like women are the devil and men are the saints, that they just tortured by women putting all sorts of ornaments and dresses and attracted them to their web of deceit and material life. This is not like that at all. People want what they want, and they unite because they both have desires. And when it comes to religious functions, women are much better at that. They're more adept. They're more attracted to religious activities. They're more pious. If you see pious countries, Catholic countries like South America or Poland or anywhere else, you'll see a lot more women than men in churches and functions and so on. And in India too. If you go to a temple in India, the women will elbow you out of the way and to go to the altar to see God. That's a fact. Men will just take a couple of rupees and, take the kids and show their friends and so on. But women are really eager. There's some fervor involved. So, I don't think it's all like just one-sided, and the women are the cause of material life, and men are poor victims, that they are subjected to this undue attraction, that if they were by themselves, they will never think about material life or women or anything like that. This is not a fact. The material world goes on by this very strong sex attraction, but it takes two to tango. This is not just women. It's not. The men are avid and willing participants in this dance that Maya is creating for everybody. So don't, in the early times, some devotees used to call the ladies in the temple Maya Devi, just watch out with Maya Devi, and they will dress, in orange, saffron, peach, whatever color is. And in India, even the sannyasis will and brahmacharis will challenge each other. Is the color of your saffron cloth the natural dye, or because there's one type of dye that it shows if you're actually not celibate, let's say. And so this is like a game. It's like a game that goes on, but not anymore, really. Women are very intelligent. They can preach and teach, and they can do whatever men can do. Maybe they can't lift the same amount of weight or run as fast, but so what? Neither can I. So there you have it. So in this case, Sati, who was accustomed to royal life, you can imagine, she was a princess. Daksha was kind of a king. All of a sudden marries this guy, doesn't have a house. That's the first problem. Doesn't have any steady job, with steady income. Lord Shiva is unemployed, really. He doesn't have a paid job. And so Sati she more or less knew what she was getting into. And her husband is an extraordinary figure, and he shows up in many parts of the Bhāgavatam. He's very unusual, and he's very Krishna conscious. And he actually doesn't have any, not that he doesn't have any social skills, because, just sometimes husbands do not have social skills, but he didn't have any interest in social interaction. No small talk, no this family functions, no seeing the relatives. He was pretty happy, absorbed in thoughts of Sankarshan. Whereas Sati, she wasn't as Krishna conscious, but she was actually thinking of her husband and trying to please him. although she had attachment for her father. Well, at least temporarily. Eventually that faded away quite quickly and drastically. Matter of fact, she was so disgusted with being a blood relative of her dad that didn't want to have that body anymore. Just, I don't want any links with someone like him. So this is, I will say no more. And here at the end, it is good, Prabhupada said that Lord Shiva didn't spend her dowry, buying ganja. Although in India it grows everywhere, you don't have to buy it, and so does in Colorado and California and many other places. But this ganja smoking is not spiritual. It's not a spiritual activity, because you can't really expect for self-realization to be cheap. That God just all of a sudden makes his darshan available just because you're smoking some weed. That doesn't happen. You have, as the Brahma Samhita said, Premanjana Bhakti Bilochane. This is the ointment of love. That's the price, not ganja. Yeah, you can smoke whatever you want until you turn blue in the face, and still you won't see God. The only way to see him is through love. Just like the only way to see us in our most personal, vulnerable, intimate way is to become a loving friend. No other way will do. You can't torture, you can't push your way into intimacy. You have to actually give your love and your trust, and etc., etc. So Krishna wants it exactly the same way. Yesterday, before we get into the exchanges and opening for realizations and reflections and so on, yesterday was the disappearance day of Vamsidas Babaji and Raghunanda Thakur. This is the second time that I follow your class and you don't mention the disappearing boys. So I brought a book that has some information on the biography of these great Vaishnavas. And I would like to, if you indulge me, I would like to read a little bit. Because these are not ordinary people, these are our family. So we're going to talk about some of our relatives now. Srila Raghunandan Thakur, the third member of the Chaturvyuha, Pradyumna, took part in Radha Madhava's Leela in Vraja as Krishna's intimate friend or Priya Narma Sakha. He has now appeared as Raghunandan, whose body is non-different from that of Sri Chaitanya. This is from the Gaura Ganadeshwar Deepika. Raghunandan was born into a family of physicians in the Sakha year 1432, which is 1510 AD. His father's name was Mukunda Das. His mother's name was unknown. Mukunda Das was Narahari Sarkar Thakur's older brother. In the 15th chapter of the Madhya Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is clearly said that Mukunda Das was a physician to the king. Superficially, he appears to be engaged in government service as physician to the king, but in his inner life, he is filled with divine love. Who can know the extent of his love? The Chaitanya Charitamrita. Once, when Mukunda Das was engaged in treating the king, he saw a peacock feather and fainted. This incident is also described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Like Narahari, they make their home in Srikanda. Mukunda Das' home is about 1 mile from the Srikanda station. Raghunandan Thakur took birth on the Vasanta Panchami day. His uncle, Narahari, took a great deal of interest in raising Raghunandan, for whom he had much affection. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu indicated that one's importance increases with the depth of devotion by telling Mukunda Das that his son was really his father. The three most important devotees from Srikanda were Mukunda Das, Raghunandan, and Narahari. Mahaprabhu asked Mukunda Das, "Are you Raghunandan's father?" and he is your son, or he is your father and you his son? Tell me so that I can put my doubts to rest. Mukunda answered, Raghunandan is my father and I am his son. Rest assured. Whatever devotion we have comes from him. Therefore I see him as my father. When he heard Mukunda Das' answer, Mahaprabhu was thrilled and said, he from whom we imbibe devotion should always be considered our senior. This is very nice. From his early childhood, Raghunandan Thakur would feed the family Gopinath's deities ladus. Uddhava Das has written a song in which this lila is described. Mukunda Das lived in the village of Srikanda, where his household deity was named Gopinath. One day he had to go somewhere to work, and he asked Raghunandan to do the service. He said, in this house we worship Krishna, so I want you to be sure to give him something to eat. And then he left. Raghunandan did as his father had ordered and made the offering to the deity. Raghunandan was just a child, and in his simplicity he said to Gopinath, eat, eat. Krishna was controlled by love, so he did as the child told him, and he ate everything on the plate without leaving even a grain of rice. When Mukunda Das returned, he asked the boy to bring him the prasad from the offering he had made. The child answered, Father, Krishna ate everything and left no remnants. Mukunda was so astonished at his child's wondrous words that he asked him to make another offering. This time after he left the house, he returned and hid to watch what his son did. Raghunandan joyfully placed a laddu in Krishna's hand and said in a commanding voice, Eat, eat. When Krishna had eaten half of the laddu, Raghunandan saw Mukunda Das in the doorway. Mukunda saw that Krishna did not take another bite and that the half-eaten laddu remained in his hand. This caused him to be filled with love. He embraced the child, and as tears of joy rained from his eyes, spoke to him in a broken voice. To this day, fortunate people came to Srikanda to see the half-eaten laddu in Gopinath's hand. Come to Srikanda. Raghunandan is not different from Cupid himself, says Uddhava Das with great feeling. All the Mahantas felt fascinated to see the Gopinath deity, whom Raghunandan had fed ladus. That's from the Bhakti Ratnakar. Narahari Sarkar Thakur gave meat to Nityananda Prabhu and Mahaprabhu from the pond right next to their home. The pond became known as Madhu Pushkarini. The legend is told that a kadamba tree that grew next to this pond always had two flowers blooming regardless of the season as a result of Raghunandan's miraculous powers. According to the Gaudiya Vaishnava Abhidhana, another miraculous event took place in Raghunandan's life. One day Abhiram Thakur came to Srikanda and paid his obeisances to Raghunandan. Then he embraced him and melted with feelings of prema. Raghunandan started to dance and sing kirtan. While doing so, one of his ankle bells slipped from his foot and went flying off, landing 4 miles away in a Kai hat near his disciple Krishnadas's house. Later, in order to commemorate the event, an artificial pond was excavated in that village and given the name Nupur Kund. Mahaprabhu, the father of Sankirtan, gave his adopted son Raghunandan Thakur the authority to offer the garland on the day before the Sankirtan Jagya, the Adivas, and to make the final offering at the Jagya's end. Raghunandan Thakur accompanied the Bengali devotees to Puri every year at Chaturmasya. He would dance with his uncle Narahari at the Ratayatra festival in a group formed by the residents of Srikanda. He participated in the Kuturi festival organized by Narottam Das Thakur at Gadadhara's festival in Katwa, and at the commemorative festival for Narahari Sarkar Thakur in Srikanda. Some people said, anyone who is dear to Raghunandan will win Mahaprabhu's mercy for life after life. Others said, Raghunandan is so merciful that he gives life to the most humble and fallen. Some said, what humility, there is no one who is his equal. And others, he is as beautiful as Cupid himself. Srila Raghunandan Das Thakur had great affection for Srinivasacharya. Prior to his disappearance, he consoled Srinivas that despite the difficult times, he would be able to spread Vaishnavism in the future. A difficult time is coming in which people will succumb to various doubts. Narahari Prabhu wrote in his Sri Krishna Bhajanamrita, once our Lord Krishna Chaitanya and his companion Nityananda Prabhu have ended their incarnation, the Vaishnavas in this age of Kali will become more anxious with every passing day. Whether very advanced, somewhat advanced, or neophyte, their hearts will nearly always be filled with doubt. But don't let this worry you. Lord Gauranga will accomplish many great works through you. I bless you that you will remain long on this earth, and then you and your followers protect our Lord's religion. Those who are opposed to devotion to Krishna will become devotees by your influence, and they will take shelter of you. Raghunandan Thakur bequeathed the service of his Gaur Gopal deity to his son, Kanai Thakur, and then left this world on the 4th day of the waxing moon, Shukla Chaturthi, in the month of Shravan. Kanai Thakur gave a feast as part of his father's last rites. Raghunanda slowly became hidden to mortal eyes while repeating the names of Sri Krishna Chaitanya again and again. How glorious is that day of Shravan Shukla Chaturthi, yesterday. Will anyone not sing the glories of Raghunandan Thakur? That's from a Bhakti Ratnakar. Now, let's hear a little bit about Vamsidas Babaji. The Paramahamsa Avadut. This article is based on other articles that previously appeared in the old Gaudiya magazines and various statements made by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj and his disciples who know Vamsidas Babaji personally. Srila Vamsidas Babaji appeared in the village of Majidpur in the Jamalpur district of Bangladesh, not far from the city of Jamalpur. Before the partition of India, this city was formerly in the district of Mymensingh. According to Haridas Das, his father's name was Sanatan Malobrahma, and he was previously known as Bhairava. Babaji Maharaj came to Navadvip from East Bengal. He was a Paramahamsa Vaishnava who acted in the manner of an Avaduta. The word Avaduta refers to one who has shaken free from all worldly feelings and obligations. He does not care for social conventions, particularly Varnashram Dharma, and he is quite eccentric in his behavior. Nityananda Prabhu is often characterized as an Avaduta. Vamsidas lived in Navadvip under a tree on the banks of the Ganges, demonstrating a very high standard of renunciation. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur was attracted by his Vaishnava behavior and his disregard for the rules and regulations of society at large. Srila Prabhupada himself paid his obeisances, Srila Prabhupada refers to Bhaktisiddhanta, paid his obeisances to Babaji Maharaj from a distance, but did not allow his disciples to associate with him. For though Babaji Maharaj was a Paramahamsa Vaishnava, an ordinary beginner in devotional practice would likely misunderstand his indifference to the rules and regulations and end up committing offenses at his feet. The primary purpose of the rules and regulations is to bring pleasure to Shri Radha and Govinda. A practitioner who has not yet overcome his mundane conditioning may very well judge an advanced Vaishnava according to rules and regulations, which were designed to help him advance to the next level of spiritual realization. If he measures a perfected soul by the standards that have been set for the beginner, there is a possibility of committing offenses that could result in fall down from a devotional path. It is said that Babaji Maharaj had 2 cloth bags. He kept his Nitai Gaura deities in one, Radha Govinda in the other. He would regularly worship them, taking them out of the bags and serving them mentally with mantras. Then, when he had finished, he would place these deities back in the bags. On occasion, he would leave them outside so that people could look at them. Once in a while, he would offer tobacco to Radha Govinda in a hookah, but not to Nitai Gauranga. Many people would come bringing offerings of rice, fruits, vegetables, flowers, or bananas, but Babaji Maharaj would ignore them. When he noticed an accumulation of such offerings, he would mentally offer them to his deities and then distribute the remnants to whomever happened to be present. Who can understand such enigmatic behavior? Babaji Maharaj was tall enough to be able to pick fruits for his puja from the high branches of a tree without making use of ladders or other paraphernalia. On one occasion, he fell from a tree, and from that time on, he took on the guise of a lame person. He only wore a kopin, a strip of cloth covering his private parts, and left his hair and beard uncut and unkempt. Babaji Maharaj did not stay exclusively in the Navadvip area, but traveled to many holy places, where he also performed his spiritual practices. He embodied the verse, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavitamati, and wherever he went, he always remained immersed in the notion of Krishna Rasa. Everything reminded him of Krishna Lila, but especially the pipal or bata tree. Whenever he saw a pipal tree, he would sit under it, taking it to be Vamsi Bata, under which Krishna played his flute to attract the gopis. When he had stationed himself there, it would be difficult to get him to move. On the 12th day of Falgun, 1347, Monday, February 24th, 1941, Vamsi Dasji left Koladweep, or present-day Navadweep city, and headed for Vrindavan. Sometimes he walked, sometimes traveled by ox cart, and other times by rail. He first went to Katwa, where he stayed for 2 days under a bata tree near the train station. Then he took the train to Bhagalpur, where he stayed for 1 day under a bata tree near the station and for 4 days by the Ganges. Then he traveled on to Gaya, where he remained on the banks of the Falgu River for 3 days. He also stayed on a boat in the Ganges near Dasaswamedha Ghat in Benares for 3 days, spent another 3 days in Ayodhya by the Sarayu, including 3 hours under a bata tree at the Triveni confluence at Prayag, blah, 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 etc., days here and there. Those who travel with Vamsidas recounted that when wandering through Vrajamandala, he will sometimes sing songs about Krishna Lila, sometimes glorify Navadvip Dham, sometimes laugh madly. Sometimes he will babble incoherently, and oftentimes he would remain completely silent. When visiting a temple, he was often seen muttering confidentially to the deities, disclosing some personal sentiments to them. All in all, his companions were charmed by his devotional absorption. In the old Gaudiya weekly magazine, further accounts of Babaji Maharaj's travels were given. After traveling to these places, some devotees from his birthplace in Majidpur invited him to come for a visit. He acquiesced to their enthusiasm but found little pleasure in going. He said that it was a place the Pandavas had neglected. Okay. I don't think so. Not here. Okay. So his disappearance was the day of Shravan Shukla Chaturthi, which is yesterday. According to Haridasas, Vamsidas Babaji never locked his doors, even though he was asked to do so by his well-wishers. His house was thus regularly robbed. When asked why he didn't lock his door, Vamsidas said that it was Gauranitai's responsibility to protect their own house and possessions. Sometimes he would chastise the deities for not stopping the thieves, but when he found that the pots of foodstuffs had been stolen. So this is a little summary of Vamsidas Babaji's unusual house behavior. Also, it doesn't say here, but nobody ever saw him bathing and didn't smell bad at all. So, yeah, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta played cautiously, didn't want his disciples to associate with him because they will commit offenses. They will think he's just, a hobo or something like that, and they will commit offenses. There was one time, I was in Alachua with another friend of mine, and we had doubts about our devotee. This devotee was very eccentric, very, very eccentric. The only service he did was washing pots. He washed enormous amount of pots, and he really didn't speak with anybody. And he always had an enigmatic smile in his face. So we thought the smile was maybe an indication of Paramahamsa stage. So we decided to test it, and took the devotee away from the pots, sat him in a room, gave him a Bhagavad Gita and said, okay, we know your secret. Now you have to give Bhagavad Gita class to us, to the two of us. So he said, no. I said, yes, we know that you're totally absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, and you have that secret. You have to spread some of the nectar. And, after some coercion, he conceded. He was a complete lunatic. He was completely incoherent, and it wasn't he was absorbing thoughts of Krishna. He was completely crazy. So we never know, but we wanted to make sure not to commit any offenses. Sometimes the devotees are performing this externally they appear to be very advanced, but they are not, and vice versa. There's this who asked me to meet? Oh yeah, a friend of mine who was doing service at the Goshala with Kurmarupa Prabhu in Vrindavan. I told him that the next day I was going to Radhakunda, Shamakunda, and Govardhan. So he said, oh, there's someone you should meet there. His name is Jamuna Jivana. He's a disciple, he's Canadian, disciple of Jagadish Maharaj, when Jagadish no longer was a guru. He left and came to Vrindavan. And he lived under a tree for about 10 years. Something like 10 years. Because the Brajavasis are skeptical about the Vaidis coming over and just doing a show of devotion. Who are these people? They're born in Mlecha and they have no piety, not enough piety to become Brajavasis. But he actually stuck, I think maybe 7 years, maybe it wasn't 10 years. He lived under a tree until the Brajavasis started bringing him food, and they even gave him a temple of Prahlad next to Kusum Sarovar, and he started taking care of. And this character will do parikram around Govardhan and Radhakunda and Shamakunda every day and chant 64 rounds, and without wearing a small cloth. So this friend of mine said, you have to meet him. So I went with other people, and we were in Radhakunda, and I said I don't know where to find him because he was always moving about. So I wanted to see my old friend Mahanidhi Swami, so I know he had moved from where he used to be. So I asked someone who was walking by, I said, do you speak English? He said, yes. Can you tell me where Mahanidhi Swami is? I'm going in that direction. We can go together. Oh, that's great. And it happened to be Jamuna Jivana. That's the person I asked for directions. So, Krishna arranged that we met and spent time together. Really, really nice, super sweet, good-hearted devotee. And we sat by the banks of Radhakunda, and his realizations were actually very deep, very deep. See, actually, it was not just all show. It was not at all. He actually had true devotion and very good realization. So you never know. You never know. So somebody may be a nut, and somebody may be very advanced. So we have to be very careful not to commit offenses. And we should discriminate and associate with those who are advanced. That's recommendation of the scriptures and the acharyas. They say the most important thing to make advancement is to have sangha with those who are advanced. That's the most important. And the most detrimental thing is to associate with materialists, because they will tear away at your tender creeper of bhakti. And there is no coming back from that. You have to chant for many, many lifetimes in order to get the association of pure Vaishnavas again. So, let's talk. Yes.
Mine's short. I just want to know what book that is that you read from.
This is from the Gaudiya Math, one of it's called Sri Chaitanya, His Life and Associates. Yeah, this is Mandala Publishing by Swami B.B. Tirtha. Yeah, it is here. But otherwise, I can lend you my copy. Yeah, it's very good. It's a good read. It's your family story. All of your relatives are in there.
I was wondering about if Lord Shiva doesn't have a house and Sati is accustomed to royal life. I haven't heard it mentioned anywhere that she felt dissatisfied. I was wondering, is there any mention? Because I was thinking, well, if she was accustomed to a certain way of life, wouldn't she feel dissatisfied if she didn't have a house? Or, but in this situation, she's, vocalizing that she wants to go to this thing. So, I'm wondering, there wasn't mention that she was dissatisfied, and Lord Shiva did sort of go along with what she was desiring.
There is also the case of Sita that, wanted to follow Lord Rama to the forest, and or Kunti Devi, who was a queen, they did it willingly. I don't think there was dissatisfaction in the sense of, she was, I wish I had the right nail polish, you buy me nothing, I think they voluntarily took it up because she was no ordinary woman. She was Durga, so she could have said no thanks when his father said, you have to marry Lord Shiva. She could have said no thanks. Well, but Brahma told me to. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care how many heads he has. Mine is harder than his. So I'm not going. So you can see that there was, I don't think there was dissatisfaction. I think what it was is like a lingering wish to hang out with the family, and Lord Shiva had no intentions of ever doing that. Going to family gatherings, anniversaries, and bar mitzvahs, and birthday parties and stuff like that. So she knew what she was getting into, and I think she accepted her fate. But it's for the purpose of Leela. Otherwise, it would be a very, very short, the Vedic history will be very short and boring. Like, the Mahabharata will be like, okay, and this guys decided to rebel against the Pandavas, and Krishna just killed them all. And the end. That will be a very, very short Mahabharata and not very attractive. So Krishna because he's in the dramatic mood, he always creates his intrigues and creates his plots where people get, all of a sudden this desire sprung, like Lord Indra. Why would Indra become inimical to the inhabitants of Vrindavan? Or why would Dhritarashtra not see, even though he was blind, that all the inauspicious signs were present when his son was born? Why all these things happened? Why did Narada accelerated the descent of Krishna by telling Kamsa about the son of Devaki coming to kill him? Because they're all part of this theater group, as it travels around with Krishna and creates all this sort of intrigues and mystery and mischief, so Krishna can appear and perform his miraculous things with all his devotees. I think that's more or less the explanation I have. I don't think she was dissatisfied. She just got this to participate in the Leela by saying that. Anyone else? Mother Nita, of course. We need your input.
Thanks, Prabhu. So, Lord Shiva is like an Avadut type, and we have Vamshi Das Babaji Maharaj Avadut, and Lord Nityananda, and even devotees in ISKCON. And so we have a flair on one side for social kind of ignoring the social etiquettes, and then yet the other side of being, ladies and gentlemen, as Prabhupada wanted. So we have also, this social side of conforming, but yet then a social side, a spiritual side of activism against the usual social. So could you say something about our kind of Avadut social activism conformings nature, how we deal with these things in the world?
Maybe this is what the meaning of Prabhupada created a house in which everybody can live means, that the avaduts and the neophytes and the advanced and the sarakas and the squareheads and those who, the niyamagrahas, they can all live together. It's not like they have to share the same room, but they can live together. The house is big enough. It's actually, you have to actually decide who your association is. Of course, in your case, you're just past that, and you can give your association to anybody, because, it's a different story. But we should choose our association carefully, because it may be the last. We may cut ourselves off by that. So, yes, the house, everybody lives in the same house, but it's like you go to the university and you take certain classes. You don't take all of them. Some are not for you. So it's just, you don't hang out, nerds hang out with nerds, and skateboarders with skateboarders, and stoners with stoners, just, so this house is big. So we cannot pretend to be someone that we are not. So you cannot, just because you're a weirdo and you join, it automatically become an avadut in the movement. I don't think it works that way. There are certain quirks that you may have that they may be applicable in Krishna consciousness, but there are certain things that you cannot bring in. Right? You cannot become an avaduta before you become one. So if you don't bathe and you don't care about your appearance or your smell, but you're not advanced, then you're a bum. You're not an avadut. And yes, Lord Nityananda was, a rare exception, and he was there performing mischief, broke Lord Chaitanya's danda after he's taking sannyas. You don't do that to the personality of God. You don't go and break his danda after he's taken sannyasa. But he did. And he did very unusual things. And it's not to be imitated. And even some of the things, maybe we shouldn't read about it, because they're very confusing. Like his relationship with Malini, just very confusing. He acting as a child, though he was an adult. The avadutas it's like, superheroes. You read about it, but you don't try to imitate any of them. You don't have the powers. Vamsidas was extraordinary, and he didn't even talk to people. He would talk to his deities, and through his deities would talk to them. That's it. And the sadhakas, sadhana bhakti is most crucial, is our defense mechanism against Maya. If we don't have spontaneous love of God, then you better take shelter of your sadhana, because otherwise you have no protection. It's a vaccination against Maya. And don't think that because you're punctual, you're safe. You're not safe. You should always be fearful. I'm not doing enough. And this is, the more one advances, the worse one feels about one's own prowess. But it is mixed with feelings of bhakti too. So it's not just all despondency and depression. So, but the more when you join the movement, you think you're the most advanced bhakta ever. Nobody ever joined the movement and made advancements so fast as we did. But then as time goes by, after you're over the first 5 years, then you realize, maybe I'm not as advanced as I thought. And then as years go by, you feel, oh my God, I'm so far. I'm so fallen. I don't even know the extent. Even Krishna, being omniscient, doesn't know the extent of my fallen nature. This is, so, and as you get these feelings, this is a very powerful cleanser that cleanses your heart and makes it softer. Just like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was convinced. It was not opposed, that he was the only one not serving Krishna. Everybody else was serving Krishna except for him. He was the most fallen. He felt that. We may say this, oh, I'm most fallen, Prabhu, but we don't really feel it, because we look around and say, no, but that guy is definitely more fallen than I am, even though I don't say that. But the advanced devotees, they really feel it. They really feel it. And the gopis, the most advanced devotees, they feel Krishna is not theirs. They want them, but they feel like I have no way to attract Krishna. So let me help this other devotee, because they have a chance. I don't have a chance. So this is very difficult. So I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah, I did. In the midst of that. Yeah, so beware of false avadutas, and beware of super strict sadhakas. We've been around the block a few times, you and I, and so we saw a lot of people come and go. That they seem like shining stars. Or we also saw people that looked like this person is not going to make it, and they're still around. There's no material explanation to that. Krishna has his own policies about who he keeps and who he sends away for a while. So be careful. That's all. Prabhu. Let's be short. It's 9:09.
Thanks for the class, Prabhu. I just wanted to, thank you for tackling the purport, and I wanted to encourage devotees. There's nothing online, right? There's no comments or questions? No. Yeah, I just wanted to encourage devotees that when we hear statements like we find in these purports, we're meant to actually approach them and not mentally kind of shy away from them. So I think it's really important that when you come away from a section that has purports like this, you should feel like you can give a class on that yourself. If you can't, then you should be raising your hand in the class and asking and revealing your doubts. That's why we're here. So there's another one coming up in a couple of days. I looked ahead. I'm giving class on Monday, so I looked at the purport. If you have any doubts about these things, if you don't know exactly what Prabhupada means and doesn't mean, then you should bring it up. And Yeah, just encouragement, because we don't always have the association of great devotees like Sarvatma Prabhu who have these realizations. We should take them, unless we already have full conviction, in which case, great. But in my experience, usually devotees, if asked on the spot to explain these statements, often cannot. They often really can't. So it's important that we have our own doubts clarified first, so that we can actually help others. That's part of our service to humanity. Otherwise, we just end up, I see this tendency, we end up overlooking and glossing over certain sections of the Bhāgavatam and other books, and we personally don't feel comfortable addressing them because we haven't addressed within ourselves what Prabhupada actually means. And that becomes an impediment, actually, in our advancement. So, thank you.
Thank you to all of you for your patience and determination, courage to stay through thick and thin. And please, if you haven't so far, and I imagine you have, take Krishna consciousness seriously, because it's the only thing that will actually make you happy. If you happen to make Radha Govinda happy, you will be happy. If you try to make yourself happy in any other way, you will fail. You will fail. We got it. Okay. Sure.
Thank you, Prabhu, for class. Just as you were talking and describing these situations, something came up. I spoke to my son today on the phone, and he brought up the fact that, he said, "Mom, if you haven't noticed, the world is burning." And I said to him, "What do you mean?" And he said, it's really changing out there. I mean, he works in corporate. He's very dedicated, hardworking and all that, but he feels that. And I thought, Krishna, how do I, protect? I can't protect him. You can protect him. You can show him. But, the fact that he made that statement, and sometimes when we're here, when we're amongst all the devotees and we have that family, we have that protection, we sense it in the way that we know what Maya is, but we may not sense it as someone who's out there, experiencing the day-to-day environments. So I thought that was kind of profound, what he said, because it meant that he's really paying attention to what's happening in that the world is changing. And I just pray for him. And I feel comforted, by being here too. So, regards to family.
Just a little disclaimer. We do know that the world is burning, and but we knew it before anybody else knew. So that's why we are here, just because the world is, even if this wave of hatred and bigotry and dismay and economic collapse and disease and everything goes away, it's still burning, and it's coming to a sudden halt. So we just have to keep in the back of our minds that we are simply taking time to heal so we can actually help others. Just like a medic that is bleeding to death cannot help the other soldiers that are bleeding first. So we are actually getting special time where we actually can deepen our determination and devotion so we can go out and help others. But we are a missionary movement. We are not meant to live in the Himalayas and meditate in the solitude of our caves. So yeah, the world is burning, and it will continue to burn even after this virus goes away. Even if the world becomes a wonderful place, it's still burning. It's still coming to an end. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.